Pilar is seated at a hotel sipping coffee while constantly looking at her wristwatch. After some time, she exits the hotel and walks toward an apartment building. Upon entering, she finds the owner of the apartment dead. Pilar notices a birthday cake on the table before smiling at a photograph of a young girl. The photograph has a lock of hair tied to it. Suddenly, a young blonde woman with no clothing, Eva, approaches Pilar. She hands the older woman a Matryoshka doll. Pilar is so pleased to see her that she gets on her knees and hugs her. In Paris, Susanna is getting ready for a new modeling gig. She gets the job, meaning that she will not be able to travel home for her birthday. She leaves Pilar, her grandmother, a message on the same day. The two have always celebrated their birthday on the same day. Susanna links up with her agent, who takes her to a party. She is expected to meet the best photographer in the modeling market. However, her celebrations are interrupted by a phone call from Madrid. She learns her grandmother is very ill and she should come immediately. Susanna learns that Pilar has suffered from a cerebral hemorrhage. This means that she will need assistance for most of her daily tasks. Susanna decides to care for the woman for a while before she figures out what to do. She is against taking Pilar to a nursing home, so she decides to get a nurse later. In the house, there are several portraits of Pilar when she was young. It shows that she was beautiful and attractive when she was younger, just like Susanna. Susanna arranges the house so that it is more adaptable for Pilar. Since Pilar cannot eat solid foods, Susanna has to blend them to make them porridge-like. One time, Susanna was feeding Pilar when she started choking. Susanna freaks out, but she manages to help. Susanna takes Pilar to her room and cuddles with her for a while, showing the affection that the two have for each other. Later that night, Susanna is in the bathroom brushing her teeth when she notices that a lock of hair from her is missing. Suddenly, a noise startles her, so she rushes to check on Pilar. Pilar is freaking out because she has wet the bed and pooped herself. Susanna comforts the older lady. She takes her to the bathroom and bathes her. Later, she listens to an instructional video on how to clean, make the bed, and put on a diaper for an invalid. Susanna calls her agent, apologizing for being out of commission. However, she learns that the agent had taken another girl to the photo session instead. The next day, Susanna sees her grandmother laughing at a TV program. She gets so excited, believing her grandmother to have some sense of what is going on. However, the older woman's laughing fit makes it hard to feed her, so Susanna switches off the TV. When Pilar continues laughing, Susanna realizes that she was not laughing at the TV program. She is shocked to see that all the clocks in the house have paused at 1 minute to 8 o'clock. She dismisses this and goes to shower. Susanna leaves the shower and decides to check on Pilar. She finds a blonde woman squatting in front of her. The woman, Eva, is startled by Susanna's sneakiness. Eva reveals that her grandmother, Julita, and Pilar had been friends for a long time. This means that the two had spent so much time playing together when they were kids. Eva seems to have a better lay of the house as compared to Susanna. She also mentions that Pilar was looking forward to their shared birthday. This makes Susanna feel guilty that she had opted to stay in Paris. After chatting for a while, Eva leaves, but not before asking Susanna to call if she needs any help. That evening, Susanna helps Pilar into her clothing. Later on, Susanna is frightened when she sees her grandmother standing robotically at the end of the hallway. Suddenly, the doors around her close rapidly, and Pilar disappears. Susanna finds Pilar sleeping in the bedroom, so she assumes that she was hallucinating. Susanna is cleaning the dishes when she hears her grandmother singing a song. She listens to the song as it brings up a memory from when she was a child. She looks behind a poster and retrieves a small key. With this, she walks into Pilar's room and grabs a little wooden box. Susanna opens the box in her bedroom. She gets a diary that she kept when she was a child. After reading through a few entries, she remembers her birthday. She and Pilar had celebrated it with Eva and Julita. The two girls were excited about it, and they spent the day laughing. However, something happened toward the end, which involved cutting the kids' hair. For the next few days, Susanna sees that her entries in the diary are scary drawings signifying that something traumatic had happened on their birthday. Susanna tries asking Pilar what had happened, but the old lady does not mutter a word. Susanna is convinced that her grandmother is not in touch with reality. However, the strange happenings in the house make her think twice about everything. Susanna returns from her walk to find Pilar missing. She searches for her in the streets for a few hours. Finally, she returns to the home and decides to tell the police about Pilar. She is giving details about Pilar's appearance when she sees Pilar in the living room. Susanna does a double take, happy at the sight yet confused by it. She hugs her grandmother, asking her not to scare her like that again. When having supper that evening, Pilar falls into another laughing fit that does not end even after Susanna takes her to her room. Susanna wakes up in the middle of the night when a light flashes from the other room. She gets up and locks her door, but the light continues flashing. Susanna wakes up to investigate the cause. She lifts up her hand to cover her face, but to her horror, her hand is old and wrinkled. Her hair turns white, and her whole body ages. Her teeth start falling out, filling her mouth with blood. Susanna falls to the floor and starts shaking uncontrollably, with her body morphing into various shapes. At the door, she sees Eva looking at her through the glass. Susanna wakes up screaming and happy that it was all a dream. Her screaming fit continues when she finds herself in Pilar's room. She manages to calm down and notes that Pilar is sleeping in her room. Later on, Susanna books a flight to leave for Paris the next day. She is also expecting a woman called Adela, who agrees to care for Pilar. Susanna is excited when Adela comes in as she is a kind and lovely woman. The two agree that Adela will come back the next day in the afternoon. After Adela leaves, Susanna decides to head out. However, she stops when she sees Pilar standing by the window. She is muttering strange things and turning her hands in a weird motion. Suddenly, a car screeches outside. Susanna rushes to the street, where she finds Adela has been hit by a car and is dead on impact. She looks back to the home and sees Pilar staring back at her. Susanna decides to take her walk anyway as she is too scared to return home. She passes the time at a restaurant until closing hours. She confides in the waitress that she is scared that she is going crazy. After crying for a while, the waitress gives her a snack hoping that she will feel better. Susanna stops by a bus stop that has her photograph from her days when she modeled for a popular perfume. Her hopes return when she finds the brochure about an assisted living facility. On the way back home, she sees that Pilar has not moved from her spot by the window. Susanna gets Pilar admitted to the assisted home. She helps her settle into her new room, promising to visit as often as she can. As Susanna leaves, we see two pictures of Pilar by the shelf. In each, she looks different but very attractive. Susanna goes home and starts preparing to leave. She calls her agent and confirms that she will arrive later, so they should meet the next day. She takes an egg and cracks it on the pan. However, the egg breaks to reveal a black eye and some worms, making the fire swell up. Susanna jumps back in fright only to hear some news being broadcasted on the TV. A terrible fire has broken out in the assisted home, and all the people in the home are dead. The fire was so severe that firefighters from far stations had to be deployed to help extinguish the fire. Susanna starts crying, believing that her grandmother is gone. She gets her phone ready to call someone when she sees a shadow in the living room. She switches on the lights and is horrified to see Pilar seated with what looks like a smug grin. Susanna has had it, so she grabs her bag and jacket, ready to leave the house. Unfortunately, loyalty to her grandmother makes her stay back. Susanna prepares some soup for the older woman. When eating, the woman looks at Susanna as though she knows something that Susanna does not know. Suddenly, Pilar starts choking. Susanna's first instinct is to help the older woman, but she hesitates, so Pilar chokes to death. Susanna leaves the room and cries quietly as she hears her grandmother struggle. After a while, she goes back and sees Pilar dead. She calls the paramedics, who state that they might be a few minutes late. Susanna confirms that Pilar is dead, saying that she had checked. Susanna sees a photo on the shelf, horrified to see her and Eva despite having zero recollection of the moment. Suddenly, the phone rings. Eva, on the other end, wants to speak to Pilar, but Susanna confirms her identity. Eva asks her if she is sure that it is her. Susanna looks back and sees that the food she was eating has maggots. Suddenly, the lights go out with the only light coming from a burning candle under a large portrait. Susanna tries to extinguish the flame to no avail. She grabs the candle and is scared when the flame remains floating. Under the flame is a box that Susanna opens to find her picture with a lock of hair from when she was younger. Susanna hears the floorboards creak, and she goes to investigate using her phone's flashlight. A crack forms above, leading all the way to a mirror in front of Susanna. The mirror breaks, and a hand grabs her. The clocks in the house start chiming all at once. Susanna tries running, but a magical force grabs her in place. It makes her fall. Pilar walks toward the scared girl and releases her soul into her mouth. After a while, Susanna wakes up and walks toward Pilar's body. She speaks into the corpse, meaning that she has taken over Susanna's body. Soon, Eva gets into the house, and she reunites with Pilar, showing that Julita also took over Eva's original body.